Alright, so we have an alternator swap that, shouldn't call it a swap, but replacement that we're going to do today. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to know if your alternator is bad. There's a couple of ways to know. If your car will not stay running once it's running and the battery keeps dying, good chance your alternator is bad. If your alternator was good, then it would keep the charge on the battery and it wouldn't die. You can actually run your car without a battery as long as you have a battery to start it with. So you can start it on battery power, then your alternator takes over and charges the battery and keeps the car running. That's kind of the premise of it. So if your alternator is bad, the car will start and run as long as the battery has a charge, and then when the battery dies or gets below a certain voltage, then the car will shut off. That's a good telltale sign, but if you do that too many times, if your alternator is bad, you charge your battery up, drive it, and it dies again. If you keep doing that, it can kill your battery. So food for thought. So I just found something that is very suspect. So this is the wire that is supposed to conduct the power from the alternator to the battery, and all of this corrosion and the loose connection here is a very big problem. So I'm gonna have to fix that. There's a really good chance my alternator is actually good, but we've got to fix this issue first. So we're gonna check this. We're gonna get this fixed. I've got a new connector I can put on here. We'll get this wiring fixed, and then from there, we're gonna have to test voltage. The alternator could very possibly be good, so we might be taking an alternator back. So this is a better look at that wire. You can see how far corroded that is. That's why we're not getting anything to the alternator, or from the alternator to the battery rather. So I'm gonna go ahead and strip this back a little farther and see if I can find where it's bad too. And we're probably just gonna replace this wire back to here. Either that or try to just put a new connector on and put it right here, the connector right here, and then we'll see if we can't get it on there. You can see I literally just pulled this connector out of there. These were making absolutely no connection. The wires had broken off. Look at that, that's crazy. So I cut the insulation back until I found a good, some good wire back in here. So I'm gonna cut this right about here, put a new connector on, and then we will connect it back up and test everything out. Ridiculous. Here's another little tip for you guys. So we're gonna test continuity between this lead and the battery positive and make sure that we have it. So if you get a multimeter, they will have a resistance setting, or in this case, a continuity setting. All that means is that your meter is going to make a noise if these two leads touch each other. So you can check and make sure that you have continuity or connection between the two. So we're gonna test this one here, and the battery positive. We have continuity. Previously we did not. So we're going to recheck and see if that was our issue. Let's get everything connected back up and give it a shot. Alright, so you can see that I got the wiring all connected on the alternator. Get you a better look there. So there's my new connection. I didn't put my boot back on there yet. I'll do that after we verify it's going to work. So the next thing I got to do is throw the battery back in there. And after we get the battery in, then I will be able to give it a test, start and see what's going on. So I've had this battery on a charger overnight to make sure that it'll charge and that it's good. It was at 6 volts last night. It's crazy. I can't believe the car was still barely idling with 6 volts. But we're gonna check, be on voltage, DC. We're gonna check and see what sort of voltage our battery has now. Should be around 12. Okay, so we're at 13 and some change. Perfect. So when we put the connections on and start the car, we should at least have 13 to 14 volts. If it drops down when it's running, then we know our alternator's not charging. So we're gonna give it a shot here. And make our connections. For those of you who don't know, if you make your positive connection first and then your negative, you don't get a big sparky spark. So make our connections here. Give the car a test run. All right, we've got connections. We've got to get all of our stuff off of the engine so we don't end up with stuff falling all over when we try to start it. Leave the meter out here. Leave it on. Try to wedge our meter right in here so we can get a good reading. All right, let's start it up. Running like a dream. All right, let's see what kind of voltage we got. 14.6. That's what's up. Holy cow. That's all the issue we had. So we'll go ahead and shut the car up again, and you can see the voltage drops down. See if I can sit you guys in a good spot here. All right, so now you can see car's off. Test the voltage. So you got 13 and some change. So your voltage will be higher when your car is running. If the voltage would have dropped or stayed the same, we know that our alternator is either low charging or not charging enough. All right. So that's our alternator diagnosis on this 99 Camry. Now, if we were going to change the alternator, I think I said it at the beginning of the video, it's fairly simple. See if I can get sun blocked here. But there's this bolt right here. It's gonna loosen the front of the alternator. And then there's another bolt right down. I don't know if you can see it well enough. There's the tensioner bolt, is that one right there. And then below it, there's a bolt right there that will loosen the ear on this alternator, so it'll drop down, and then you relieve tension on the belt with that. Pull the belt off, pull those bolts, pull the alternator, and swap it out if you need to. Before we go, those of you who are wondering what a bad electrical connection looks like, so here's the wiring. Let's see if I can get that to focus at all. So you can't really see that very well. See how that's all chewed up? See how that literally fell off of the connector here. You can see there's two spots that this connector is crimped on at. So that bottom crimp closest to my finger was still holding, but it broke in between the other two and it had corroded. So it wasn't touching. So these wires were still inside of this, but they weren't touching anything, so the alternator wasn't charging. It's a very, very good example of poor electrical connections over time. This car is 18 years old, so you're gonna have some of that stuff. All right, guys, thanks again for watching. We'll see you later.